Welcome. So today we have a special guest. So this is like an extension of our dev call. We had just finished up. We do a weekly community call with the Tellor community, but we're excited to bring on this project just launched. This is, can I call you Justin?
Yeah, yeah, Justin is fine. Yeah.
Justin, and he's with Ethos Reserve, which is also Oath, or I guess I would love to find out the relationship.
Sure.
Kind of, yeah. I guess how did you get started in this, and
Yeah.
you guys built?
Yeah. So I started in DeFi as a bug bounty hunter in mid 2020. Slowly became, a freelance, security engineer for hire, and then a smart contract engineer for hire. Um, and in late 2020, I formed this group that was basically a study group called Byte Masons. I was like, okay, we're like going to build good code, like, cool buildings. And, um, you know, uh, since then, in early 2021, we created our first app called Reaper.farm. It was on the Phantom network, had over 300 million TVL without a token, tons of users, and carrying on that success, our team grew to now nearly 30 people. We have 15 engineers on staff, and we have 4 applications. Not going to get too far into it because we'll be talking forever. But bytemasons.com, you can check us out. We build cool stuff. And yeah, we have a token, or we built a token economy for one of our foundations, or one of the foundations we work for, called the Oath Foundation. And the whole goal of the Oath Foundation is to build a vertically integrated DeFi system. So Ethos Reserve is kind of the crown jewel of that. It's a CDP backed stablecoin platform. Built into the Liquidity system, as I'm sure a lot of your users are familiar with. And it's multi-collateral. And what it does is it is able to manage underlying assets. So we started out, our whole team, like 7, 8 of our engineers are Y Academy fellows. We're big urn heads. We manage multi-strategy vaults and do all that. So we're just like, how can we imitate modern banking and do it in like a DeFi way that's really transparent and positive sum? So Ethos Reserve is taking all those collateral assets and depositing them in lending protocols for now, and we're building a lot of low risk delta neutral strategies on the Optimism network to enable this system. And then all of this yield generated underlying buys back Oath and then distributes it to stakeholders, being stability pool depositors and LP depositors, and even stakers of the 80/20 Oath token. So maybe getting a little extreme there, but yeah, Ethos Reserve is really on the cutting edge of stablecoin technology right now, and we use Tellor, and we're a big fan of your system.
Cool. Yeah. I mean, I guess how did you find Tellor, first of all? Or was it just like you guys use Liquidity? That's how we found you.
Yeah, it was like, I've known about Teller for a while, I've been around since 2020.
Well, I think we had
uh,
been in contact with you even well before this
oh
project.
yeah, yeah, we had been in contact. I think we first got in contact because of Ethos Reserve, because we started building this maybe 9 months ago. Um, and obviously we're starting as a fork of Liquidity, so it's like, okay, Teller, it's like, do we want to use Teller, or do we want to use like Uniswap, or do we want to use XYZ? What's the trade-off space look like? And we use Chainlink as our core oracle, and our thought is, if Chainlink is failing, any Oracle solution that relies on kind of centralized data providers is going to fail. No matter how much redundancy you program in, like a major failure in AWS, or a major failure in some critical protocol would cause a catastrophic failure of the system. And you think about, how can you have a truly decentralized backup, or how can you have a truly decentralized Oracle system? And how can you do that in a way that the data is fresh enough that it's not vulnerable to attack? And what we see with Uniswap, especially on Optimism, I mean, first of all, on Optimism, Uniswap oracles aren't like they have a latency to them, which makes them impossible to use. And even if we were on Ethereum, I think we would still opt for Tellor, simply because programming security into a TWAP, not only is it complex, not being able to rely on a third-party security model, but it is like the trade-off space we're in. Okay, how long of a tail do we want, and how fresh of data do we want? Like, we're building a rugged decentralized system. Making that decision is really hard, and making it right, I would say, is close to impossible, especially because these LPs are so manipulatable. Yeah, that's how we ended up with Tellor. We were like, okay, after a couple meetings, it seemed pretty clear. We need something where, like, Uncle Jeff in his with his like iPhone or with his Raspberry Pi setup or whatever in his basement should be able to keep Ethos Reserve healthy. And then as we scale and as we gain these network effects, those effects will compound. And that's kind of the cool thing about Liquidity, is the resiliency is like, if I die, or if some of our engineers die, every aspect of the system can be maintained by the community. And we decided to stick with that ethos, and the Ethos Reserve. I can't say ethos. That's like when you say you're optimistic and you're building on optimism. It's like, no way. But yeah, that's kind of where we went with, and we're pretty happy with our decision. And your team has been awesome, helping us out. Submitting some PRs for our implementation, which is always fun and helpful.
Super cool. Yeah, so I guess, yeah, I mean, how'd you pick Optimism, by the way? Just quick question.
Yeah. So really, I mean, it kind of like at the root, it like very, very low level, it's because I'm really cheap. And the addressable market's a lot bigger on Ethereum. The liquidity is a lot deeper on Ethereum. You can get more security beyond even just network security on Ethereum, as in your LPs are more secure. Everybody's like more, stagnant, and you can even like trust with 100% certainty that MEV will occur on Ethereum, which is helpful when you're building a system that incentivizes all these keepers. But we opted for Optimism for a few reasons. One, we see it as a really good starting point to prove out the system, because it's a lower liquidity environment. So we have to be a lot more careful with the yield strategies we design. We have to be a lot more careful with LTV ratios and things like that. Beyond that, our existing community, because we started on the Phantom network, they're as cheap as we are. When you're going after the we have low fees L1 narrative, in 2021, your audience is going to not have the heaviest pocketbook. So that's another reason. And then a third reason was, they're centralized enough right now that you can actually talk to them. And talking to the Ethereum Foundation is really hard, and making connections on Ethereum is really hard, because honestly, like, a lot of these teams have checked out, like a lot of the teams we would want to integrate with. So we were like, okay, this is a young, vibrant ecosystem. We can maybe cut a deal with the Optimism team. We can talk to them. We can make sure our users' needs are met. And quite frankly, like, I see L2 block space eventually becoming as sought after as L1 block space is now. And of course, it's going to take quite a while to get there, but where things are headed, as block consumers of L1 ecosystems, L2s, are eventually going to be the #1 customer of Ethereum. And as that happens, and as more enterprise level needs are being met by the Ethereum ecosystem. When you're running just an app for users, the average user, suddenly they're paying $100, $200, $300 for any operation, and I see that as an eventuality. I mean, I feel like anybody who's bullish on Ethereum shouldn't be deploying software on Ethereum, because it's like, what happens when gas is 10K, and I feel like, with the sharding roadmap and all of that, if depending on how it's implemented, I haven't read their sharding papers, but it seems like probably, there will be chances to re-enter the Ethereum market in the future, perhaps on a shard, or in a similar way to that. So it's like just a good cheap way to get going, I guess, on Optimism. So.
Super cool. No, I'm super happy I asked the question. Yeah, I mean, last kind of question, I guess, using Tellor, you guys are super unique in that you guys have almost like a variable collateral set. Like what are you guys supporting now, and which ones, is the goal infinite collateral, like almost anything of value?
Sure. I mean, really, like when you're thinking about collateral, especially for, we're trying to create a really premium stablecoin in ERN. It's like, okay, what actually has the liquidity on the network to be considered premium? Because, quite frankly, on Optimism, Bitcoin is teetering relatively close to shitcoin status. Liquidity is relatively thin, demand is relatively low, volume is relatively low. Really, you're just getting arbitrage. And, I think, unfortunately, this isn't like the consideration you want to have when you're building a decentralized system. But, you look at their market makers, Wintermute, Paradigm, to a certain extent, I'm sure some like offshore A16Z type entity are there making the Uniswap markets, and therefore making all the other markets, doing the HFT on chain, and making the Optimism market on Coinbase and Binance. So with that being said, we can generally rely that arbitrage will happen relatively effectively. Whether it be like synthetic or real or whatever. I don't know how these guys operate. It's a little over my head, but yeah, I think the goal is to not really have much in terms of collateral. Like, we don't want people to have to think too hard. We don't want like a MIM situation. So Bitcoin and ETH is all we support right now. And, there will be more, probably one more, maybe in long time frames, two more, possibly three more. And we'll kind of have to see like what asset can get fully decentralized with governance, and what asset can develop deep enough liquidity that liquidators can actually reliably offload assets. And then there's also like what assets are on centralized exchanges, so that arbitrageurs can really quickly ensure there's parity in the event of a massive on-chain liquidation. So yeah.
Super cool. No, I'm sure I can talk to you for an hour, but we're not supposed to do that. We're gonna keep it short. I guess what are you looking for? How can people contribute? How can people take part in the ecosystem, and where can they find you?
Yeah. So, I mean, really, we're looking for people to try Ethos and join our community. So ethos.finance is the website, and discord.gg/oathdefi if you want to talk about it. And honestly, like, minting ERN is the best thing you can do right now. And quite frankly, it's the best stablecoin in DeFi. It's the best yielding, fully collateralized stablecoin. These systems are not going anywhere. And, I really want people to get used to the name ERN. We were like, okay, we're not going to call it USD because, some government body is going to show up at our house. Sort of like ERN, earn. And we're cheesy, but yeah, definitely try out Ethos Reserve and let us know what you think. I think it's dope, but I'm very biased.
Yeah, no, and by the way, shout out, awesome community you guys are building. It's huge.
Yeah, you have the best Discord emojis.
Oh yeah. Thank you. Yeah,
Well,
we've
like 30 to 40 discords, and the Oath Discord by far has the coolest custom emojis.
Yeah, please get in there and give them a try. It is it took a lot of work and a lot of effort to have those wonderful emojis. If you like Aaron from Breaking Bad screaming, you know, that's the place for it.
Super cool. Yeah. Well, thanks. We shall talk to you and keep up to date soon.